Here's what nobody tells you about building muscle. The program that you'll actually follow beats the perfect program that you'll quit in 3 weeks. I spent a decade training everyone from complete beginners to advanced lifters, and I can tell you that the biggest mistake isn't picking the wrong split. It's overthinking the split and never starting. Look, I'm gonna save you years of program hopping and analysis paralysis right now. The perfect program isn't some magical combination of exercises or a secret rep scheme that only elite coaches know about. It's the one that you'll actually execute consistently with proper effort, form, and recovery. Because the uncomfortable truth is that a mediocre program done with integrity and consistency will absolutely demolish a perfect program that you half-ass or quit after 3 weeks. I've seen it play out hundreds of times. The nerd who obsesses over every detail of their program but trains with the intensity of someone checking their email will get destroyed by the meathead who just shows up, works hard, and eats their meals. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that program design doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But if you're not sleeping enough and you're not eating to support growth, and if you're not actually pushing yourself in the gym, then we're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Your work ethic, your adherence, and your personal preference for the training style matter more than whether or not you're doing 2 sets, 3 sets, or 4. So before we dive into the specifics, understand that everything I'm about to tell you is worthless without proper execution. Now let's talk frequency. How often should you train each muscle group per week? The answer is as often as you can recover from. Protein synthesis, the actual process of building muscle tissue, lasts somewhere between 48 and 72 hours after you train. So theoretically, hitting a muscle group more frequently gives you more opportunities to stimulate growth. But there's a catch. Fatigue is going to be the limiting factor. Train too frequently and you'll accumulate too much short-term and long-term fatigue that your performance drops and you're just digging yourself into a deeper hole. This is where training splits come in, and there's a lot to debate about which one is going to be best, but let's break it down into the main options. So we have your full body splits, train every muscle group 3 times a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On paper, this is optimal for frequency and protein synthesis. The problem is that the sessions get long because you'll be training everything in one workout. Fatigue accumulates fast, and the exercises that you do later in the session, which is going to be usually smaller muscle groups like your arms, get deprioritized because you're already gassed from squats and rows. Full body works great for beginners, but for advanced lifters, trying to fully develop each body part is a bit impractical. And then there's the classic bro split. So chest on Monday, back Tuesday, shoulders Wednesdays, and so on. Each muscle gets hit once per week. This has the lowest frequency, which is suboptimal because protein synthesis stops well before your next session, potentially leading to a trophy between workouts. But the bro split has its advantages. Minimal fatigue per session, full focus on one muscle group, and you can fully train a body part with just 2 or 3 exercises. It's simple, it's effective, and it's okay if you're cool with lower frequency. Push-pull lower split is kind of like the middle ground. You're training push muscles like chest, shoulders, and triceps twice a week, pull muscles like back and biceps twice a week, and legs twice a week. This balances frequency and fatigue better than your full body or your bro split. The sessions are shorter, fatigue is manageable, and you can prioritize specific body parts by adjusting the split, like adding an extra push day instead of the upper day if your chest is lagging. It's a solid option for most intermediate to advanced lifters. But my favorite is the half body split, upper lower twice over a 6-day period. So upper lower off, upper lower off. This gives you high frequency. Each muscle is trained twice weekly with manageable session duration and lower fatigue per session compared to your full body. The real magic is using A and B rotations. The first upper might focus on horizontal pressing and vertical pulling, while the second upper might focus on vertical pressing and horizontal pulling. Same with lower. One day emphasizes quads and the other emphasizes hamstrings and glutes. This way you fully train each muscle over the week without overloading any single session. Now, how many exercises should you do per session? Less is better for efficiency, so ideally 4 to 5 sessions per workout. This allows better focus, progressive overload, and less fatigue compared to doing 8 to 10 exercises when the last few are garbage because you're exhausted. 6 to 7 can still work if needed, but the goal is efficiency. Avoid redundancy, so you don't need 3 different flat chest presses with similar loading patterns in a bro split. 2 or 3 exercises can fully train a muscle because you're only hitting the chest that day. The full body split kind of struggles here because you're covering all muscle groups often, which requires more than 6 exercises. But the half body and the push-pull lower split keep exercises low by splitting muscle groups across days and using those A and B rotations, and that will cover everything over the week. If you absolutely need to do 7 exercises in a session, consider splitting it into 2 shorter sessions, 3 to 4 in the morning session and then maybe 3 in the afternoon. Now, exercise selection is where individuality really matters. You need to consider alignment, matching exercises to your orthopedic health and the muscle fibers that you're trying to target. For example, you wouldn't do a decline chest press for upper pecs. Profiles matter too. You want to be matching the loading pattern to the individual strength curve. Ideally, exercises should be heavier at the positions where the muscles are strongest. Choose exercises that you can progressively overload long term and avoid unstable setup. Fully training a muscle means loading it near its fully contractile range, so mid to lengthened and shortened positions, and biasing different fibers for complex muscles. Most muscles only need 1 to 3 exercises to achieve that, even for advanced lifters. And this works across all splits, but it's easier in the bro or the push-pull lower splits where sessions are focused on fewer muscle groups. Exercise sequence matters too. Prioritize exercises that overload muscles in the mid to lengthened ranges earlier in the session. These positions often produce more intramuscular force, so you want to hit them when you're fresh. For example, do squats, which load the quads in their mid to lengthened position before you do leg extensions, which emphasizes the shortened position. But there are exceptions based on your goals. If glutes are your priority, maybe you'd want to do hip thrusts before squats, even though squats involve more muscles because you want to hit your glutes first. Now, moving on to volume. So the sets per body part per week. And this is where people waste a massive amount of time. The volume debate is kind of a time suck. People fixate on studies comparing 1 set versus 8 million sets instead of testing what works for them individually. Volume varies widely because execution varies. But at the end of the day, we want to avoid extremes. Don't do 1 set per week and expect optimal growth, but also don't do 50 sets per week, which might just cause edema, not actual muscle growth. The best volume is whichever one allows for the fastest progressive overload. If you're adding weight to your favorite exercises, your volume probably is in a good spot. But ideally, 4 to 12 sets per week per muscle group. Start lower, focus on form and intensity, and adjust based on your progress. Last thing to cover is rep ranges. Stick to 5 to 10 reps for 95% of your training. This balances efficiency, so maximizing muscle growth, with efficiency, so minimizing fatigue and orthopedic toll. Lower reps like 5 to 6 are often touted as best for stimulus with less fatigue, but personal preference also matters. Higher reps like 8 to 12 may work better orthopedically or performance-wise for exercises like lateral raises. So there you have it. The perfect hypertrophy program balances frequency with a half body or a push-pull lower split, minimizes exercises per session for efficiency, selects exercises based on alignment and profile, sequences them to prioritize mid to lengthened ranges early, trains with appropriate proximity to failure, tests volume to find out what allows for the fastest progression, uses long rest times, prioritizes 5 to 10 reps, and uses intensifiers sparingly. But remember where we started. Execution trumps everything. The best program in the world is useless if you don't show up, work hard, eat right, and sleep enough. Test these variables, adjust based on your individual response, and stay consistent. That's how you build a physique. Now, if you want this full course on designing the perfect hypertrophy program, my PED courses, my nutrition course, and my training plans, join the DIY Bodybuilding Club. I will put the link in the description, and as I return to YouTube, please like, subscribe, and whatever else I'm supposed to ask you to do.